10 incredible immortal creatures. Some can even regrow their heads after being decapitated. Welcome to Enigma Files. For centuries, humans have sought the secret to immortality, yet progress has been minimal. However, in the natural world, there are creatures that seem to defy death. Some possess astonishing regenerative abilities, while others have lifespans so long they might as well be immortal. Today, we're diving into 10 creatures that refuse to die, and some of them are downright terrifying. Get ready to be amazed. If you've ever talked to a butcher, you'll know that a chicken can keep moving even after losing its head. This is because a chicken's central nervous system is vastly different from humans. Unlike us, some of its vital functions, like movement and breathing, aren't completely controlled by the brain, but rather by the brainstem. So, if a butcher cuts off the head but leaves the brainstem intact, the chicken can survive, sometimes for a shockingly long time. In fact, one legendary chicken named Mike the Headless Chicken lived for 18 months without a head. His owner fed him by dripping food directly into his throat, and Mike even went on tour across the U.S., astonishing crowds everywhere. Talk about real-life zombie vibes. You've probably seen those viral videos, an octopus chopped into pieces, yet still moving. Does this mean octopuses are truly immortal? Not exactly. The octopus itself is dead, but its tentacles keep moving, and here's why. An octopus has a highly unusual nervous system. Unlike humans, most of its neurons are located in its arms, not its brain. This means that even after being severed, each tentacle can still react to stimuli as if it has a mind of its own. And here's something even more shocking. These disembodied tentacles can keep moving for up to a week after the octopus dies. Scientists at St. George's University in London conducted an experiment where they euthanized an octopus, removed its arms, and placed them in ice-cold seawater for an hour. Then, they divided the tentacles into two groups. One group was laid flat on a surface. The other was hung vertically. When they touched the flat tentacles with tweezers, the tentacles actively recoiled as if trying to escape. The vertically hanging tentacles? They curled upward within a second, still responding as if they were part of a living creature. And if you think this is just some creepy science fact, consider this. In places where octopus sashimi is served fresh, live moving tentacles can be deadly, not because they're poisonous, but because they can stick to your throat and choke you. So, if you ever try octopus sashimi, chew carefully. Not what you expected, right? We've all heard that a bee dies after it stings, so how could it possibly be considered immortal? Well, here's the catch. Even after death, a bee can still sting you. Not by flying up to your nose from the afterlife, of course, but because of how its venom delivery system works. When a bee stings, the stinger doesn't immediately fall off. Instead, it remains embedded in the victim's skin, and the venom gland inside the stinger continues to pump venom even after the bee itself is dead. This happens because the stinger has its own tiny muscle system that automatically contracts to inject venom, completely independent of the bee's control. So if you touch a dead bee stinger, you might still get a painful surprise. And the depth of that sting? That depends entirely on how hard you press it. Fire salamanders have long been associated with longevity and even immortality, earning the admiration of those who believe in magic. Their incredible regenerative abilities seem almost supernatural, something that should only exist in a world of fantasy. But in reality, their survival is simply a product of natural selection. What makes fire salamanders truly remarkable is their ability to regenerate nearly any part of their body after it has been severed. Even more astonishing, the regenerated limbs function just as well as the original ones, and in some cases, they may even perform better. So, what's their secret? It turns out that fire salamanders produce a special protein that accelerates cell regeneration. Interestingly, humans also have this protein, but in much smaller quantities. In us, it primarily helps wounds heal faster. This raises an intriguing question. Could humans one day regenerate lost limbs? While this isn't currently possible, scientists are studying salamanders in hopes of unlocking this incredible ability for medical advancements in the future. Have you ever seen magician David Blaine's famous fly resurrection trick? In this illusion, he touches a seemingly dead fly and moments later, it miraculously comes back to life. Does David Blaine have supernatural powers? Of course not. The secret behind this trick is surprisingly simple. Flies can survive in a frozen state. The dead fly is actually just frozen solid, and when Blaine warms it up with his hands, it thaws and regains movement, creating the illusion of revival. But while their ability to endure extreme cold is impressive, that's not why flies have earned a spot on this list. What's even more shocking is that female flies can survive for days without a head. Not only do these headless flies stay alive, but they can also perform complex actions, such as walking, flying, and even grooming themselves as if nothing happened. Even stranger, male flies don't seem to mind at all. In fact, they still find the headless females attractive and actively attempt to mate with them. However, despite lacking a head, the female flies still have their instincts intact, and they're not interested. When faced with unwanted advances, they firmly reject the males, proving that even without a head, they still have standards. Scientists have discovered that frogs can still move even after brain death, and in some cases, even after losing their heads entirely, like several of the other creatures on this list. Frogs have a nervous system that allows basic bodily functions to continue without the brain. Their respiratory and circulatory systems are controlled by their spinal cord, which means they can still breathe and react to stimuli even if their brain is completely destroyed. For example, if you flip a headless frog onto its back, it will instinctively roll over and stand up again. If you pinch its foot, it will jump away. Even more bizarrely, if you place it in water, it may start swimming to one side. Perhaps the eeriest phenomenon is that if you gently stroke its back, it might even let out a happy little croak, like a zombie frog enjoying a relaxing massage. But before you get too creeped out, remember that these actions are purely reflexive. They occur due to automatic electrical impulses triggering muscle contractions, not because a frog is coming back to life. So no, you don't need to worry about undead frogs hopping around. Fish, reptiles, birds, and mammals all have pacemaker cells in their hearts that take over when brain function ceases, ensuring that the heart continues beating for a short period. But turtles? They take the survival mechanism to an entirely new level. For turtles, oxygen deprivation is just another part of daily life. Over time, they have developed an astonishing ability to stay submerged underwater for 5,000 hours. Yes, you read that right, 5,000 hours. Turtles are true diving masters. They can extract oxygen from water through their skin, throat, and even their cloaca. But what's even more incredible is their ability to generate energy without oxygen, as if their hearts have their own personal fuel reserve. When that last drop of fuel runs out, they simply surface for a breath and continue on their way. Of course, no turtle would intentionally push itself to such extremes. But their unique adaptations certainly contribute to their reputation for long lifespans, a well-earned reward for being nature's most patient survivors. A list of creatures that refuse to die wouldn't be complete without snakes. Their resilience goes far beyond what you might expect. When faced with harsh conditions, snakes can enter a state of dormancy, requiring minimal food, water, and even air to survive. Some species can go an entire year without eating. One of the most shocking examples of their survival ability comes from snake wine, a traditional remedy where a live snake is sealed inside a jar of alcohol. However, if the bottle isn't completely airtight, the snake can survive for years, relying on a tiny amount of oxygen near the opening. There have been cases where people, upon opening an old bottle of snake wine, were bitten by a very much alive and very angry snake. Even after apparent death, a snake's body remains dangerously active. Their nervous system is so widespread that even an hour after decapitation, the severed head can still react. If touched, it may instinctively strike and bite, delivering a venomous attack post-mortem. Flatworms are famous for one thing: insane regenerative abilities. Cut off any part of their body, and not only will it regrow, but the severed piece will regenerate into a whole new worm. To put this in perspective, if you cut off its head, the body will regrow a new head, and the head will regrow a new body. If you chop it into 20 pieces, you won't kill it. You'll just end up with 20 identical flatworms. Scientists at the University of Nottingham once conducted an experiment in which they turned a single flatworm into a colony of over 20,000 genetically identical worms. What's more, these creatures don't seem to age. Researchers believe that, left undisturbed, this colony could technically live forever. Who would have thought that the first true immortal organism might be a tiny, unassuming worm? Cockroaches are infamous for their resilience, to the point where they're often regarded as the species most likely to survive a nuclear apocalypse. But their most terrifying ability? They can live without a head, not just for a few minutes or hours, but for 2 entire weeks. Why does this happen? Well, let's compare them to humans. When a human is decapitated, they immediately bleed out, because our circulatory system depends on a closed-loop system with pressure. Cockroaches, however, have an open circulatory system with minimal blood pressure, meaning their wounds can seal up almost instantly. Humans rely on a brain to control respiration, so without a head, we die immediately. Cockroaches, on the other hand, breathe through tiny openings in their body called spiracles. Their respiration is completely independent of the brain, allowing them to survive without a head. The only reason they eventually die after 2 weeks is that they can't eat. Otherwise, they'd probably keep crawling around indefinitely. They say, good creatures don't live long, but pests survive for 1,000 years. That might be the perfect description of the indestructible cockroach. That wraps up our list of the top 10 hardest creatures to kill. Which one surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications.